Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of American Gothic. I will hands down say this is probably my favorite episode so far, just because of the constant twists and turns. I'm just going to run down everything in the episode. First of all, I have to say, I actually feel a little bad for Allison. Just a tiny bit. Just because she got blindsided at that debate. And it's just like, so what about these allegations that your brother Cam's blood was tested, but he wasn't a killer, but it shows that familial DNA proves that someone in your family is SBK. And it's like, whoa, everyone's losing their mind. You see Allison up there just kind of like, don't know what to say. It's like, I kind of feel a little bad for her. Granted, it's like, stuff like that shouldn't leak. I mean, because the point is, police keep that information super tight knit. So the fact of the matter is so that they can do the investigation without having to be concerned about all these different questions from the press and stuff like that. But granted, certain journalists and as well as people from the press probably have connections within the police that's just like, you didn't hear this from me. I don't even necessarily have to be a policeman, just someone that works in the police field. Could be someone that like a tech that works in the lab that studies DNA and stuff like that. I mean, not studies, that examines the DNA and stuff like that. Could just be someone like that. It's just like, you didn't hear this from me, don't quote me on this, but blah, 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 blah. So, but it's kind of be expected. It's like, it needed to come out just to spice things up, but I was not expecting that. Like, I was thinking, like, okay, is it going to turn into, like, oh, does Tess tell them or not? It's like, she didn't have a choice. It's like, that was blasted everyone. That really caught me by surprise. Because, like, the moment that was happening, it's like, no matter what, it's going to be outed. You're going to be outed because there's no way Tess and Brady are going to get there in time. And they didn't. I was quite shocked in that. And what I really liked about this episode is the fact is what happens is what you would think it happened. Literally the entire family turns on each other, pointing out fingers, blaming Tess because it's like, yo, Tess, this is your fault for bringing the whole DNA up. It's like if you had never they blame Brady, but mainly they blame Tess because it's like if you had never gave him permission to, it's like we told you not to give any DNA. It's like, granted, yes, I mean, good and bad, I guess, but it's like, hey, she cleared Cam's name. That was the whole point of it. That's what she knew. Cam wasn't a killer. She just wanted to prove her brother's innocence. Granted, she basically screwed over the rest of your family, but nonetheless, she did the right thing. I mean, Allison at the time was kind of like, it doesn't matter. I mean, not that it doesn't matter, it's just too late to change it, because it does matter, because basically her political career is over, because there's no way you want to get out of this little snafu. It's like, your family will always be associated with A, you're connected to SBK, there's no way you're going to be our mayor. So I'm sure the current mayor is loving it, because it's like, okay, now I get to run unopposed, because I don't think anyone else is stepping up to be mayor except for Allison, right? Then at the same time, we got drama with her husband. His name is Tom, right? Like, I swore his name was Paul. I think the reason why is because the actor Dylan Bruce also played Paul on Orphan Black. I've mentioned that in the past one, and I think that's why. But I could have sworn, I was like, oh, his name is Paul too. I could have sworn that, but maybe not. Maybe I'm just confusing that. But his name is Tom. Essentially, her hubby, you see it at the very beginning. He's kind of giving like Naomi those kind of like those eyes of disdain. And it's just like, he brings it up. It comes up later in the episode when he's just like, hey, you don't want to like make love, right now. You don't want to let me comfort you. It's kind of like, she gives a valid response, like, really? At this time? Like, I'm just not in the mood. I don't want to be touched, this whole situation. She's like, but he's like, oh, it's because of Naomi. He's like, admit it, it's more than just a fling between you. And she's like, really? Now, with everything going on now, you're bringing that up, you're throwing that in my face? And he eventually apologized like the next day, but it didn't matter because he like did that whole slide thing, texting her. They had a little meetup. Then we find some interesting information. Like, their whole marriage is kind of a farce. She's okay with him, like, he's okay with her sleeping with whoever she wants to, as long as she comes back and tells all the details. That's why she admitted the whole thing with Naomi, even went and expressed details to kind of spice up their sex life. So she's like, yeah, just stay. He's like, stay away from my wife. She's like, really? Really going to tell me to stay away from her? The fact is, you're having this whole conversation right now that we're having it means that you're desperate, because like you're going to lose her. It's like just wait, because I'm very interested to see, like, at the end of the day, who will she choose? Because they kind of caught up in a little game. It turned out to be, it was better than I expected. because initially I was kind of like, wow, Tom's really okay with this? Because when he found out about the affair, but it's kind of, with what he said earlier, it's kind of, okay, that makes sense why he'd be so okay with it. But now we kind of see the jealousy kind of come out, like, even though they have that type of marriage, he still does care for her. So I don't know, I mean, I don't know. It could be interpreted as he does care about her and he doesn't want to let her go, or is it just because in his mind she is mine? I'm not willing to let go of what's mine. Like someone else is stealing something. Like, I mean, you never know. In his mind, she could be nothing more than property to him. I mean, because the fact of the matter is, this whole marriage could be just an opportunity for him. I mean, saw what he did. He basically took this opportunity to sweep her father's company from underneath her, buying it like that and everything. So there might be some validity to that. It does seem like Naomi does legitimately care about Allison, but like I said, I already saw it from Allison. I just didn't like see it from Tom because I wasn't expecting him to find out so soon. Like I thought it would be something kind of later on. I thought the one that would be acting out of pure jealousy, I thought would be Naomi, because like it's very interesting because I bring it back. Well, it was like the second or third episode. Naomi, they were at a party and Tom was giving her a gift, and Naomi kind of gave him the stink eyes from like across the way, just like he did in this episode. So it's kind of interesting. They're kind of at each other's throat about Allison. It does make you wonder at the end of the day, who will she choose? Honestly, I don't know who I'd kind of want her to stay with. I mean, it's like you would want her to kind of stay with Tom because like for the kids' sake, but at the same time, it's kind of like you follow where your heart is. If like you're no longer in love with him, then go be with Naomi. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. I mean, really, you should have like divorced your husband first and then went to be with Naomi. But the heart wants what the heart wants, I guess. But there's that front. With everything being said and done, the family kind of tearing at each other, like going at each other. What I really liked is like the pointing the fingers, because like we have Tess not really saying anything about who it could be. We have Cam being like, yo, it's Dad. And you have Allison be like, no, it's Garrett, obviously. And then Cam brings up all these different examples. He's like, yeah, you got to admit, Dad's the older person. He's got the build for it and to be SBK. And it's like, he also brings up the memory thing he had last episode, that he was out of his mind. But Mom kept being like, oh, you were high. No, the others were just basically being like, oh, you were high. Like, obviously, Tess is to me, like, I guess Tess is more so supposed to be the audience than out of anyone. I think she's kind of our best representation from the audience because she is very neutral. She's kind of like, I don't know what to believe. I'm just believing whatever information's in front of me. So I think she's kind of supposed to reflect us. So she didn't really put any input, but it was just mainly those two. Allison saying, like, let's not face it, Garrett left town around the same time the killing stopped. Now he's back in town, and now this is all resurfaced. It's like, it's a little suspicious. But then Cam throws up, like I said, the memory thing, and his mom was just like, no, you're out of your mind. He's like, no, I checked the stairs, and yeah, there's markings, so yeah, I know I wasn't tripping. And then Mom did the crazy thing, which obviously you could tell Mom was not in a good mood because she got super pissed about, just like the fact is they weren't willing to eat the food, and she's like, oh, well, this, I guess I just wasted my time. I didn't look that very appetizing, but then Madeline just threw it on the floor and just like, dessert. And then when she got pissed at them after that whole conversation with Cam, like finally she snapped. She's like, go to your rooms. And they're kind of like, wait, what? Did you tell us to go to our rooms? Even Allison's like, you do realize it's 9 o'clock. Not bringing up the point, we're adults. We can do whatever we want to. Didn't bring that point up, but she was just like, go to your rooms. And it's just like, okay, I guess we as adults are going to go to our rooms, even though it's like 9 o'clock. But it's just, to me, that's such a funny circumstance. And I did like the fact is that Cam was so adamant about it being their dad, and it kind of messed with his mind, especially because you had Jack constantly bringing up vultures, basically being like a key sign for someone who's psychopathic. They'll collect a lot of birds because, they themselves are kind of like birds searching out their prey, so they surround themselves with birds. I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but basically psychopaths are connected to birds, and the fact is that their dad, like it gets into Cam's head. He starts looking around the house. He's like, there are actually a crap ton of birds in this house, kind of being like, kind of solidifying on a certain level, solidifying his mind. Maybe it is Dad. I don't know. Then it's the whole, like, him and Tess having a conversation. Tess is like, she's constantly being judged for her connection to Garrett because she always had starry eyes when it came to Garrett because she always looked at him in a positive, like he was the great big brother. Allison obviously has her opinion of him, and same thing for Cam because Cam is like, yeah, that's the same brother who used to punch me in the face because I stole his bike, or the same one that tied me up last episode. But Tess is like, let's not forget he also tied you up for your own well-being, and he got you the medicine from his doctor friend. And then, it wasn't brought up, but let's not forget about the fact that, because they don't know about this, but what about the fact is he got the money for you when you're trying to pay off that debt for Sophie. He got the money from your mom and gave it to you, so there's that. But I get his suspicions. Then you had Allison finding that thing, and mom did her typical thing. And I love the fact that Kim called her out on it too. I mean, obviously it was just between him and Allison and Tess, but it's like, mom comes up with excuses all the time, being like, oh, that was from your dad having an affair. And it's like, I called it quits. Me and the guy were talking. He was here at the house, and we were just simply talking. Your dad got pissed, beat him unconscious, dragged him downstairs. That's what you saw. But she's like, I was too embarrassed to admit it. It's like, Cam is right. It's like, I brought that up before. She's always got an answer for everything. That's a little suspicious. And I feel like in a case like that, with the circumstances being what they are, I feel like at this point in time, you kind of put embarrassment aside and just admit, yeah, I had an affair, which to me means something. Like, I'm still pulling for maybe they actually have a sibling that they don't know about, because she still hasn't let out who was the man that she was having an affair with. Maybe it was one of SBK's victims. Really interesting twist would be if you ended up finding out the man she was having an affair with ended up being Christina's dad. I think that'd be kind of interesting. It popped in my mind during the end of the episode, but that was just kind of Christina being the doctor friend. Like I said, I'm terrible with remembering characters' names. It takes me a while to finally get the characters' names right, because I always try to get it in my mind. I say it a couple times, okay, remember that. Guarantee you next week I won't. That always happens, but nevertheless, I think it'd be kind of interesting if it ended up being Christina's dad. But I'm still aiming for that. It's like, they probably have a secret sibling out there that they don't know about. Their mom got pregnant and gave the child up, not necessarily for adoption, but just gave it to dad, like, yeah, never come around here again. Or the child just got put up for adoption in general, because we don't know whatever happened to the guy she was having an affair with. They said like the dad just drug him out and whatever, so obviously he never went to jail for killing him, because he was just beaten unconscious. So he might still be around, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has a kid. Maybe Madeline, afraid to admit anything or just to keep things quiet, she put the child up for adoption, and maybe that child ended up coming into contact with them, and maybe that's what the dad wanted to say, because the dad was like, we've got to come clean. But obviously Madeline killed him, because it's like Madeline, there's like so many secrets that Madeline's trying to keep, and I feel like that's one of them. Maybe because it is connected to SBK. Because what we ended up finding out in this episode, because the whole thing is like, at the end of it all, it's kind of like, oh, it's Garrett. I like that the fact is it's like, yep, we're pointing to Garrett. Everyone thinks it's Garrett. The whole like Tess and Brady trying to find him. Brady ended up ditching Tess because he can find her. Ended up calling Christina, left a voicemail. She's like, oh crap, you lied to me. Your family's connected to SBK. You're SBK. You killed my dad and you're trying to kill me. He's trying to explain no. And you get that little twist when you see his truck getting pulled over. It's not him in the truck. It's Christina, because it's like they made you think it's like, okay, Garrett ended up accidentally stabbing her, because I felt like that's where it was going to go, because she had the knife pointed to him. She was trying to reach for the keys. I was like, oh God, this is going to turn bad for Garrett. And it's like, no, it worked out a little bit better for Garrett. Granted, he got stabbed and is just left in the woods bleeding. I mean, because Christina's not going to look after him, even though she's a doctor, because she's thinking like she stabbed the person who killed her dad. So, but we end up finding out in the episode, it's like, oh no, it wasn't Garrett. We end up looking at the DNA, because your dad actually had a jersey that had some of his blood on it, which I really like this, because it's like, oh, it was brought up in earlier parts of the episode, because it was something, him being a football player, getting hurt and stuff. That was something Allison brought up in her speech earlier in the episode. And they kind of brought that back, and it's like, yep, Mitchell was SBK, and it's like, oh, poor Gary's out here in the woods bleeding for nothing. Which I'm gonna go ahead and say, there's so much more to that. Like, it can't just be as simple as that. It's no way as simple as just like it was Mitchell. There's complexity to it. 'Cause I'm still holding out the fact is that they do have another child out there, and maybe from the affair, or maybe it's one of like Madeline and Mitchell had another one, and that's just kind of left out in the cold per se, and maybe their dad was covering it up. Like, I'm still thinking, mom came up that lie that, about the memory Cam had, and maybe that's what it was. I'm still sticking to maybe the reason why his blood is up there is because this is all about covering up one of SBK's killings because that family knows who it is. They really know who SBK is. And I think at the end of the day, Madeline's going to be okay with it because she's going to be fine. She'll probably try and be like, oh, these police are wrong, because she was like, oh, you can't trust them. They're going to try and flip the narrative to fit whatever narrative they want. And so I get the feeling she's going to be like telling the kids, don't believe this, but she's fine with the cops thinking it's Mitchell and closing the case. And she'll probably try to tell the kids, oh, they're wrong, they're wrong, they're wrong. But on the inside, she'll probably be happy because she knows the real SBK hasn't been found for whatever reason. Because it also got brought up in this episode. They kind of allude to it in this episode. It kind of brought up last episode too. I didn't really point it out too much. But the fact of the matter is, Brady was like, yeah, SBK is someone in your family. Did specifically say Garrett said someone in your family, because like SBK could easily be a woman. And that's something that Cameron brought up. But the fact of the matter is, it's like very sexist. I mean, he's like, even you could be talking about Allison being SBK. And she's like, wait, what? Basically talking about the fact is that her personality, the fact is she can be very charming, yet also narcissistic and meticulous. The fact is she's a politician, you know, very comes in handy with lying. Let's not forget about the fact that you've been lying about the affair you're having. I love that. I was like, wait, you knew? It's like, he's like, basically like everyone knew. And Tess is sitting there shouting. He's like, well, except for Tess. It's like, Tess is the only one apparently that didn't know about that affair. And I was just like, oh, that was so good. The family tearing itself apart is what I like. It's like you saw it a little bit at the beginning, but as the episode progressed, it got worse and worse. And then finally at the end of the episode, when Tess is the only one believing in Garrett, and it's just like, you have to, it's like Allison be like, no, you have to believe, you have to admit it now, like, Tess, you know, Garrett's the killer. And it's like, oh, nope, it's your dad, apparently. Like I said, there's so much more to it. It's much more complex than that. And other side notes in this episode was like Sophie making an appearance, her doing her thing, like trying to convince Cam, was like, let's get away from your family. Your family thinks I'm poisoned. They're the ones poisoned. They're the reason why you started taking drugs. It's, you know, you started doing drugs way before you met me. It's because of your family. Cam doesn't want to leave them behind because they are his family, but she's like, no, they're not your family. Me and Jack are your family. And note that she did try to kiss him multiple times, but he kept kind of pushing her away, which, you know, is understandable because let's not forget what she did. Was that not last episode, the episode before last, where she slept with her drug dealer to pay off that debt? Let's not forget that. Like, she can't sit there and pretend like she's very innocent. It does seem like she does have ulterior motives. I didn't like, you know, that conversation between Cam and her, and she's basically on the phone. And she talks about the fact that, okay, I'm actually put down a down payment on a place for us so we can get away from this. And it's just like, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know if you can trust her, dude, because it's not even just that whole sleeping with the drug dealer thing. Like, granted, that doesn't help her case, but it's like she's done, I don't know, like everything she does seems shady to me. Like she is out for different reasons. It's like, I think she talked about the fact it's 6,000, but do you even have the 6,000? Because you didn't even have the 4,000 to pay off your drug dealer. So does that makes me wonder? Like, I'm still, I don't know. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Actually, I don't, because I'm cynical and pessimistic. I'm thinking like she's doing this for money. She's trying to pretend like she's on Cam's side just so she can use him. I don't know. I just don't know with her character. It's like, because I'm suspicious of everything she does, because I feel like everything she's doing is just trying to manipulate Cam, because it's like she wants him back, because there has been a like bigger distance between them since he came back. I mean, since he got clean and everything, they have been separated. So it's kind of, at me personally, I'd be like, yo, let's get you cleaned up first, and then we can talk about us living together as a family. But that was never really brought up. And the fact of the matter is, he never threw that in her face about the whole drug dealer thing, which is like, that's still pretty fresh in my mind. I would assume it's still pretty fresh in yours. But maybe that was something that's kind of dealt with off screen and then just, you know, it's not brought up. Or maybe that's something eventually Cam will throw in her face. I don't know. I'm just saying she's very suspicious. Overall, a really good episode, dude. I did really like the fact is that we kind of saw it a little bit. Garrett was willing to open up to Christina. He was like, I'm going to tell you everything. And I think he legitimately was, because he does care for her. I think his reasoning for caring for her is very misguided. I'm gonna get to what I'm thinking right now, because I had to pause because I was thinking about something. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But the fact of the matter is, I think it's because, SBK, you know, killed her dad, and the fact of the matter is, SBK ruined her life, but at the same time ruined his, because he knows a lot of stuff, but he couldn't come forward about it because of his family. So I'm thinking, you know, maybe he's trying to make up for it, trying to give her something, trying to make her happy. I don't know, but the fact is, he was willing to open up to her, which he's never opened up to anyone. Going to explain why he ended up leaving the family behind, why he kind of despised his dad as much, because he even opened up talking about, oh, if he were to, him being gone, he's like, no one really miss him. Maybe Tess will. Even then, he's kind of like, maybe. But I feel like out of anyone, yeah, Tess would the most. Because out of anyone, Tess is the most on his side, especially after that ending. It's like, oh, your dad did it. So it's kind of like, definitely, Tess is kind of looking at everyone like, I told you it wasn't Garrett. You all doubted him, and she probably going to feel a little bad because on some level, she's probably, even though she gave him the benefit of the doubt, there's probably a small part of her that started to doubt him too. So she'll probably feel bad about that. Now, like I said, I was going to talk about a theory that I was just thinking about, but I decided not to. It's a weird theory, and if it ends up being true, then it'll end up being true, and I just won't say it because it's not really worth talking about. Because I feel like it doesn't apply because certain things have already happened. I'm like, that kind of nullifies that theory. I mean, it doesn't necessarily nullify it, but it's just kind of weird, and I'm not going to bring it up. So I just leave it at that. But like I said, really good episode, hands down. I'm thinking this is my favorite episode so far. It was super good. Love the twists and turns. I cannot wait till next week to find out where we go from here. But that's really all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.